Hello, I'm Dan Rather, and welcome to the CBS Evening News Online Edition. Just ahead, women in combat, and why the Pentagon is now re-examining its long-standing ban on women in combat. Also, how's the overall U.S. economy? That depends on which presidential candidate is doing the talking. We'll give you the facts and the real deal. And the way you do your checking is about to change. Find out how in CBS's Friday Consumer Alert. From its earliest days, the U.S. military has focused on fighting wars with more or less definable lines. Combat troops in front, men only, support behind. But with the festering insurgency in Iraq, the Pentagon is now taking another look at such assumptions, including the role of women in uniform. CBS's David Martin gives you the inside story.
The unexpected realities of the war in Iraq are forcing the Pentagon to re-examine its long-standing ban on women in combat. In a guerrilla war fought mainly in cities and without front lines, the current policy that forbids women from serving in units engaged in direct ground combat may have to be rewritten. The issue is being brought to a head by the scheduled deployment back to Iraq of the 3rd Infantry Division, the unit which led the original charge into Baghdad. As part of a larger effort to reorganize the Army into a more combat-ready force, the division will for the first time have supply companies comprised of men and women directly attached to combat units. The debate is over whether this new organization violates the letter of the law which bars women from combat. Whatever the outcome of the debate, the fact is women are already in the middle of the fighting. Although women do not and will not for the foreseeable future serve as infantrymen breaking down doors and conducting house-to-house searches, or as tankers blasting their way into rebel strongholds, that does not keep them out of combat.
You're doing great, Jessica. You're doing wonderful, okay?
Private Jessica Lynch and the other members of her supply convoy found that out early in the war when they were ambushed by fighters from Saddam's Fedayeen. The Army has lost nearly 800 soldiers to hostile fire in Iraq. 24 of them women. Pamela Osborne, mother of 3, was killed in a rocket attack 2 weeks ago. Jessica Covey's convoy was hit by a roadside bomb. Kimberly Hampton was piloting a scout helicopter for the 82nd Airborne when she was shot down. It may not be official yet, but women are serving in combat. Look who's behind that .50 caliber machine gun. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
So how is, on the facts, the economy doing? CBS's Anthony Mason gives you a reality check.
To hear the candidates tell it, it's a tale of two very different economies.
We've created 1.9 million new jobs in the last 13 months.
He can't come here and tell you I've created all these jobs because he's lost 1.6 million jobs.
So who's right? They both are. The recovering economy has started creating jobs again. But since the president took office, we've lost 1.6 million private sector jobs. However, if you include government hiring, the overall loss during the president's term is about 800,000 jobs.
Real after-tax income, the money you keep in your pocket, is up more than 10%.
President Bush says his tax cuts have made Americans wealthier. But Senator Kerry says most of those tax cuts have gone to the wealthy.
The highest 1% of income earners in America got $89 billion of tax cut last year.
He's not wrong. 1/4 of the tax cuts in effect this year go to the richest 1%, those with incomes over $290,000.
So is the average American better off now than he or she was 4 years ago? Well, this is where it gets a bit tricky. On average, Americans have more money, but most Americans are in fact worse off. Now, how can that be? Because average income includes the very rich.
Very wealthy, high-income households in this country have done extraordinarily well over the last several years, and that means that the average income, the average net worth, has risen much more than the median.
In fact, the median household income, the number smack in the middle of all Americans, is now $41,550, $30 lower than it was 4 years ago.
By that measure, at best, we're holding our own. Arguably, we're not quite where we were when the president took office.
The candidates are telling different stories because how you read this economy depends on how you read the numbers. Anthony Mason, CBS News, New York.
It's called the float, the time needed to ship canceled checks from one bank to another. And generations of Americans have used it to stretch their bill-paying budgets. But starting next week, new check handling rules let your bank send the float right down the drain. CBS's Mark Strassman has the Friday Consumer Alert.
Like college kids everywhere, Tamara Hampton is strapped for cash. How tight is her budget? Just listen.
Before I got paid, which was today, I think I had $5.
So she occasionally floats a check, buying time to put money in her account because she figures that check will need a couple of days to clear. But soon, a major banking change called Check 21 could turn check floating into automatic check bouncing. The original check would no longer physically move from bank to bank.
It has to go by plane, train, and automobile in order to get processed. What Check 21 does, it allows that process to be done electronically.
A processed check will fly through cyberspace and clear within 24 hours. Bankers say Check 21 would also cut fraud and increase security. But consumer advocates are worried that Check 21 puts no obligation on banks to credit deposits any faster. They say even people who don't float checks will get caught short.
It becomes much more important to know whether or not the bank is putting a hold on your paycheck or other deposits. If they are, you're going to have to wait longer before you start writing checks on that deposit.
Rebecca Elias is a fixed-income senior. She's suspicious of Check 21 because her new bank statement would include only photocopies of her original checks.
So where's the original? You know, let me throw the original. Don't you do it. So that's the part I am really concerned about it.
For Tamara Hampton, Check 21 could really hit home.
You'll be way more cautious. I know I will be from now on.
And affect not only how she spends her money, but when. Mark Strassman, CBS News, Atlanta.
More stories are just a click away. But don't forget to join me on television for the on-air edition of the CBS Evening News. On Monday's broadcast, a real-life murder mystery. The story of a man who spent years in jail for killing his parents. New evidence could free him, but will he get a new trial? For CBSNews.com, I'm Dan Rather.